And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Epiroc Imposter Syndrome webinar. It's good to see you all here. I see a lot of familiar names in the audience, so welcome. Thank you for joining us. As you know, most of you know many times, I'm Laura Barker. I'm the MD of Black Box Productions, and I'm the founder of the Rising Star and Grad Star programs. So today, as you know, we're going to be hosting a webinar about imposter syndrome. I think last year was difficult, but this year, we never expected it to be this long. It wasn't supposed to be this long. We weren't supposed to be able to handle all of these stresses and changes for so long. But what looks like it's here to stay is the virtual world. Sure, we can have physical events and we can maybe come back to a little bit how we were, but the increase of technology in the virtual world is real. And for those of us who are maybe not as confident as we should be, this has given us a real safe place to hide. Behind the screen, switch your video off, you can just hide behind that screen. Well, this is what we're talking about. Imposter syndrome is real, and it affects so many more people than we realize. I mean, it's likely that the people you feel that you don't match up to are also suffering with their own self-doubt. And throughout, particularly now, over the past couple of years, research has shown that imposter syndrome is much more heavily affecting women than men. So here we are today at the Rising Star Female Forum. Men, I can see you there. You are all welcome. But we really want to be discussing today how ways and what it really means and ways and means we can overcome these concerns and worries. What you all need to know today is that you are all survivors and you're all achievers. Otherwise, you wouldn't have made it through to Grad Star. You wouldn't have entered Rising Star, made it through to Rising Star. But the question we need to ask ourselves is, do we always give as much to ourselves as we do to our external environment? Well, today we're here to discuss this. In the chat, keep the questions flowing. I will be back on for a Q&A at the end. Remember, this is a safe space to share and to be heard. And also remember, you're not alone. We are all here for a reason. Please remember we have an active social media platform. If you're a student, including our very own Grad Star app, we'd love you to like us, comment, post your feedback after the event. Also, feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. Say hello, get to know each other. Let's lift each other up. So before we're about to start, I would just like to say a huge thank you to Epiroc one more time for supporting this initiative and for making it happen. Epiroc have supported Rising Star and Grad Star for the past 4 years at least, and we are delighted to continue partnering with them as a top employer, and we look forward to seeing them yet again at the Grad Star Awards the first week of December. And here's a little bit about our speaker today. Machachi is amazing. Machachi is a director at Transformed Lives Coaching Institute. She's an internationally certified and accredited transformational coach. She's a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, negative emotional therapy practitioner, and a master coach. She has this resume with so many positions of help, from offering help and support to rape survivors, to being a social entrepreneur, to founding Who Am I, which is a social enterprise program aimed at empowering girls and women, mostly from disadvantaged backgrounds. She has mentioned that if you'd like to connect with her after the event or during the event, her LinkedIn is just first name plus surname, so Machachi Matapo. Here it is on the screen. And her website will be live during the course of next week. And that will be her company name, Transformed Lives Coaching Institute.co.za. So without further ado, let's start this. Let's hear from Machachi. Welcome, Machachi. We're delighted to see you today. Here she is. I can see. You can just put your video on, Machachi. Yay! Welcome. Welcome, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you, Epiroc. I also want to thank Black Box Productions as well as Rising Star for having me on your platform. I don't take it for granted. As you've introduced me, I'm the director of Transformed Lives Coaching Institute, and I believe in changed lives. And I know that imposter syndrome, it's a topic that we can discuss on. We can go on and on, until the sun sets, because it's very diverse. It's very interesting, and I'm looking forward to lives being impacted, and I know that we can conquer imposter syndrome. And I'm ready to. You can put the presentation up, Laura. I'm from Transformed Lives Coaching Institute, like I said. So we believe that a changed mindset equals a changed life. Next slide. Imposter syndrome. Often people wonder, but why imposter? The main reason it's called imposter syndrome is because the people that suffer from imposter syndrome feel like frauds. They feel like, you know what, one day I'm going to be caught out as an imposter that I believe to be. Hence the name imposter syndrome. Next slide. I just want to get into a definition so that we will be able to understand it properly. Some people believe it's a disease, and I had quite an interesting conversation with a psychiatrist over this, because I found out as I was doing my research over time that there's actually no diagnostic criteria for imposter syndrome. So you can't consult a psychiatrist or psychologist and claim that you've been diagnosed with imposter syndrome. And when I had this discussion with this psychiatrist, he said the reason is it's looked at as a symptom. So there's always there's an underlying problem for people that have these symptoms of imposter syndrome. Hence, it does not have a diagnostic criteria. Although there is a debate among the experts, some believe that it should be characterized as a disease, and some believe not. So it's a psychological pattern where individuals have got this issue of, they find it difficult to internalize their success. And it doesn't matter how well educated they are. It doesn't matter whether there's clear evidence that, you know what, I have really worked my way up here. I deserve to be here. There's just that internal struggle of being unable to own up to their success. And one thing that is always at the back of their mind is they live in fear and think that one day they're going to be caught out to be imposters. So you could be running a successful business, you could be a CEO of a powerful organization, but each time when you have to take up this role, you have these imposterish feelings, imposterish thoughts that I'm not supposed to be partaking on this table. These people are going to find out that I don't know as much as they do. Because the one thing that is very consistent with imposter syndrome sufferers is they like comparing themselves to other people. And every time they're in a room, they believe that other people know more than them, which is actually not true. And like I said, because it doesn't have a diagnostic criteria, it's actually more a social issue than a clinical one. And you could be sitting and wondering, but what causes it? I haven't really found a definite cause for imposter syndrome, but there are some likely causes, and I'll just get into maybe three of them. One thing about we've been socialized to be modest about our achievements. So the moment you look like you're owning up to your success, you look like you really believe that I'm where I am because I've worked hard, that thing is perceived as pride. So we play ourselves down because we don't want to come across as proud people. So that could be one of the causes of people feeling imposterish. And I just want to make a difference between owning up to your success and having pride. Owning up to your success says that I have played a role to be where I am. I have earned my stripes without making other people feel small. But having pride now is when you undermine other people because of that position that you have. And the problem with imposter syndrome is if you don't own up to your success, you will not be given positions easily because you've come with this aura, this energy that I don't belong to be here. And hence I always say that your perception is what you're projecting to the world. So how you see yourself is how people are going to receive you. If you don't believe in yourself, who will believe in you? So that's why most people come across as imposters, because of they believe that it's pride when they own up to their success. And then you have children who grew up in a family where they were not encouraged to express themselves. So I'm here, I'm running an organization. I've got to make life impacting decisions. My voice has got to be heard. But because I grew up, every time I try to express myself, I'm shut down. I don't have that confidence to stand up and make my point. I don't have that confidence to believe that I can steer the ship in the right direction. So that's another likely cause. And the third likely cause is if you grew up with parents that were moving back and forth between overly criticizing you and also giving you praise. You're not sure what to do. And at times when you embark on a task, you are awaiting criticism because that's how you grew up. Because we must understand that we are conditioned beings. The environment we grow up in plays a very huge role in how we view life later on. And then next thing is they find it difficult. Imposter syndrome sufferers find it so difficult to accept praise because of that issue that I mentioned, that sometimes you find that there's no balance between giving you praise and overly criticizing you. So you grow up feeling that way. And then another one is when you've just entered a new role can trigger imposter syndrome. But that one usually does not last that long because it's just because you have entered a new role. Next slide. And who does it affect? Everyone, basically, everyone can suffer from imposter syndrome. People of every social class, it doesn't matter, any type of job that you're in. High achievers, very prevalent among high achievers, suffer from imposter syndrome. And then it's known that over 75% of the people have at least had one episode in their lifetime. So you can see this is a very big percentage. So you've got a lot of people looking confident, you've got a lot of people doing great things, but they are struggling with fame, because they constantly ask themselves if they really deserve to be there. And then you have women, Laura mentioned it, women experiencing it more than men. And that's not difficult to understand because women culturally are believed to be homemakers. We're supposed to be taking care of kids, making sure that the household is in order. But over time, we find ourselves leading big organizations, even have to make decisions that affect men. So at the back of our mind, we still carry that, you know what, I'm not the right person to be doing this. These people are going to find out that I'm actually not qualified enough or I'm not suitable for this position. And I must say also, religious beliefs also impact women because a lot of religious practices do not allow women to be in places of authority. And so you come into the workplace, you're given this influential position. You find it so hard to actually own up to that because of your religious practice. And then people of color, more obviously, especially now in SA with our young democracy, you find that you all of a sudden are sitting on these powerful tables that in the olden days you never had access to. So that is going to be at the back of your mind. That is going to be a constant struggle to actually finally believe that, you know what, this is where I am because I earned my way to be here. Next slide. And like I said earlier on in the beginning of my presentation, that there are those that will experience it for a short time. Like for instance, when you're in a new role, you can feel imposterish for a couple of months or maybe even a year and get over it. But there are those that, it becomes a lifelong issue. And mainly because of, this thing didn't come in overnight. So it's not going to come out overnight. But the good thing is it can be beaten and it can actually be used for your own success. Next slide. And there are certain traits. How can you know? You're probably sitting there and wondering, am I suffering from imposter syndrome? Am I not? These type of individuals feel very inadequate. You give them a task, they don't have that confidence that they will be able to deliver the way you expect them to. You give them a position, they keep asking themselves if you have not made a mistake. And they are constantly comparing themselves with other people. And like I said, that when they compare themselves to other people, they always believe when they're in a room that the people that are with them in the room know more than them. And I must say this on this point, I must say, if you suffer from imposter syndrome, your consumption of social media shouldn't be high, because that sort of triggers those imposterish feelings or thoughts, because you're constantly going to look at other people making it, and you're gonna believe that this is actually true. I'm not where I'm supposed to be, or I don't deserve to be where I am. And they've got a lot of self-doubt. And like I said, it really doesn't matter how much feedback they have. It really doesn't matter whether there's clear evidence that, you know what, you've done the work before. You have shown some competence. They doubt themselves, and they believe that they shouldn't be where they are. Can we move to the next slide? Oh, I also about negative self-talk. You need to watch your language. I always ask people, can you talk to yourself the way you speak to, can you talk to the next person the way you talk to yourself? So be kind to yourself, because one thing about negative self-talk is what it does, it increases your stress levels and anxiety levels, because you're constantly putting yourself down. And like I said, how you perceive yourself is how it's what you're going to project to the world. And unfortunately, that's how you're going to be received. So there's different types of imposter syndrome, although I just touched on a few. So you've got the perfectionists, for instance. The perfectionists believe that everything that they do must be 100%. If I have not delivered 100%, then clearly there's something wrong with me. And they believe that the A plus, whatever they do, it must be A plus. And if that's not the case, they beat themselves up. And unfortunately, the problem with being a perfectionist is it robs you of a good quality of life, because perfectionists usually, these are the first people to arrive at work. These are the first people, the last people to leave the office. And the other day I had an assignment, and my son was looking at me because he knew that I had finished that assignment and I should be submitting it. But I went back and forth, changing this and that, because there was a certain standard that I was aiming for. But I realized that I'm actually robbing my kids' time with them, because I'm stressing over this assignment. I know definitely that I'm not going to fail it, but there is a very high standard that I've set for myself that makes me have sleepless nights. And unfortunately, perfectionists are like that. They spend sleepless nights doing one thing over and over, because there is a certain standard that they are aiming for, and sometimes it just increases your stress and anxiety levels as well. And then you've got the soloists. The soloists, you see the singer there, they like doing stuff by themselves. They don't like being assisted. So the moment they have to reach out and ask for help, to them it's, I'm not competent enough, and forgetting that you can't know everything. Sometimes you need to consult. So they are like that. They are loners. They like when you give them a task, they don't involve anyone. And then you've got the great mind. So the great minds are like our Albert Einsteins. So the great mind, they actually believe everything that they do must be done with ease, must be done with speed. So the moment, it feels like this task that I'm doing, I'm taking long, to finish it, then I don't think that I'm competent enough to do it. And then if I'm experiencing some difficulties here and there, I also think that is a reflection of my incompetence. So I'm sure we've got a lot of great minds in this on this platform this afternoon. And then you've got the superwoman. They've got the whole world in their hands. They must know everything. They must be able to do everything. If they can't do everything, and it makes them feel like they're not competent. And I'll just end with the expert. The experts are very knowledgeable. These ones, they also don't. So one thing that is very common with imposter syndrome sufferers is they find it so hard to ask for assistance, because according to them, if I am really capable of doing this, then I mustn't be consulting. I must just be able to carry it out with no assistance. So the expert hardly ever ask for help, because they are supposed to be knowing it all. Next slide. And how can one deal with it? Imposter syndrome is something that can be dealt with. It's something that can be worked on. Although I must emphasize that it's not something that is going to go away overnight. You know, you're not going to wake up after this talk and think, oh my word, I've beat imposter syndrome. It's something you need to be very patient with yourself, because for you to get to that point, it stems from somewhere. So the root cause must be dealt with. So you need to know the signs, and like the traits that I have shared with you: self-doubt, comparing yourself with others, anxiety, inadequacy, feelings of inadequacy. Those are the signs that you have to look for. Do I find it difficult to accept praise? Because imposter syndrome sufferers always will attribute their success to external factors. So here is Majaji. She has delivered this presentation, and then she gets good feedback from people. Instead of her patting herself, on the back and saying, oh, I did well, she would say, oh no, I slept at 3 o'clock. That's why I managed to deliver it. Or if I did it, if I could deliver that presentation, then it means that anyone else can do it. So they don't think they're special. They just believe that, you know what? It means that anyone else can do it. Next slide. And you need to pay attention to the language choices that you use, because remember, what you speak comes from your thoughts, and your thoughts are now translated in your speech, and your speech can ultimately become how you behave. For instance, if you're constantly saying, I don't deserve to be here, my gosh, these people are going to see that I'm not supposed to be leading this organization because of 1, 2, 3. That is not a right language choice. Instead, you should change it into, I should be able to trust the judgment of those that have hired me, because there's something that they saw in me. That's why they gave me this role. They believe that I have attributes that will make me be able to steer the ship in the right direction. And well, how about I'm here because I've earned it. I've worked hard to be here. So those are the type of things that we have to pay attention to, and the language that we use. And then we will feel less and less imposterish. Next slide. Oh, this is my favorite. Age does help with imposter syndrome, because you know what? You have been waiting for that time that you're gonna be caught out as the fraud, but it's never coming. You realize that it's never coming. And I like how Michelle Obama says it. She says that, having grown up with the background that she had. I mean, this is a lady that went to an elite college, Princeton College. She eventually also graduated from Harvard Law School. And because every time she came into these rooms, every time she came into these spaces, she was made to feel that she didn't deserve to be there. But it's something that she had to work on. And she says she realized over time as she grew older that no, man, I'm never ever going to be caught as a fraudster. I'm never ever, I've been waiting for that moment of failure. I've been waiting for that moment when somebody tells me, but it's never coming, even though I'm made to feel that way, but I constantly deliver. I mean, this is a woman who ended up becoming the first lady of a superpower like the United States of America. And she says, she's dined with kings and queens. She's dined with highly influential people. And with age, she has realized that imposter moment where really I'm going to be exposed is never coming. So meaning that she's at peace now. And she says one thing that struck in me. She says that you must understand that when you're on these tables, the difference between you and the person sitting next to you is that the person sitting next to you has been made to believe that they deserve to be on these tables based on nothing, basically based on nothing. But you have been made to believe that you don't belong on these tables. So all you need to do is to change the tape that's playing in your mind. That, girl, I've earned my stripes. I've worked hard. I deserve to be here. So, because you might actually find out that those ones that are making you feel like you don't belong there, you actually more deserving than them. Next slide. And you also need to know that you are not alone. And it's very refreshing and comforting to know that a lot of high achievers, a lot of people that has impacted lives have had to conquer imposter syndrome in their lives. I mean, look at Tom Hanks, for instance. Tom Hanks is an Academy Award winner, you know, one of the Hollywood stars that has really made a mark in his acting career. But this guy says that it does not matter how many jobs you've done, you do get to a point where you question yourself, how did I get to be here? And then another guy, Howard Schultz, who is the CEO of Starbucks. I mean, some of you are connecting probably from Starbucks now because of their reliable Wi-Fi. This guy has made, he created such a successful franchise, and he gave an opportunity to a lot of people to work from his coffee shops. But this guy says one thing that a lot of CEOs will never tell you is that they actually don't believe. They don't believe that they should be occupying those positions of chief executive office. So she says that it's something that a lot of CEOs struggle with. I'm sorry, and they will never ever admit to it. So here they are. I mean, don't you feel liberated already that you're not alone? And then finally, I mean, the late Maya Angelou, a renowned poet, a renowned author who's touched so many lives. And she said it after, I think she had written over 9 or 11 books. She says that, you know, I was still waiting for that moment when they catch me out to be the imposter, you know, even after that success that she had achieved. So we must put at the back of our mind that a lot of high achievers struggle with this. We're not alone, and we shouldn't feel like we are the only ones in this ship. Next slide. And I spoke about perfectionism because it's one symptom of being an imposter syndrome sufferer, and it robs you of a high quality life, like I said. And you just keep pushing yourself. And the sad thing about being a perfectionist is that you compare yourself to an outcome that's either very high or impossible to achieve. Hence, you keep pushing yourself. So you have to let go of that inner perfectionist, you know, and you know, give room for mistakes, give room for flaws, because you can't always get it right. You can't always get it perfect, you know. Laugh about your mistakes. It's an event. It's not a reflection of your competence. So you need to just, you know, take it a little bit easy on yourself, and you'll see that you'll feel less and less as an imposter syndrome sufferer. Next slide. Be kind to yourself. In one of my talks, I had this lady, very, very, very successful doctor, and she was saying that the moment she takes pressure off herself, she feels like she's slacking. And you know, during our conversation, I realized that it's because of she's always been a model student, and now she got to a point where, because this is what she has been achieving as a child, even she went to varsity, she still aced, then she goes to the workplace, and you know, she's still the best in almost everything that she does. She was now at a point where she was no longer doing it for herself. It is because there was this certain expectation now that people have of her. So that was her driving force instead of it being internal. So she says, every time I feel like, you know what, take a break. you know what, it's okay even if you fail. She feels she's slacking, and you need to get to that point where you take the pressure off yourself, because everyone can make mistakes, everyone can fail. And another thing that I like talking about is, if you are the first one to break a certain pattern, maybe in your family, maybe the first person to graduate, hey girl, um give yourself some slack, you know. This thing, you're rewriting history. You are forgiven to feel like an imposter. If you're a first to do a certain thing, first to own this, first to discover this, it's you can be forgiven to having those feelings and those thoughts. So take it easy on yourself and watch yourself talk. Like I've said, be kind to yourself. What you're saying to yourself, make sure that it's something that you can say to the next person. Next slide. Track and measure your successes. Imposter syndrome sufferers have got a difficulty in grasping the role that they have played in their success. Like I said, they will always attribute it to external factors. So one way of reminding yourself that, no, I'm here because I believe I belong here. I deserve to be here, is if you track your success. For instance, your current achievements, celebrate them. You know, you won an award that is worth celebrating. Celebrate, go out with girls, you know, let's have a drink over this, pat yourself on the back, congratulate yourself, girl, congratulate yourself, guy, because it's not everyone that can do that. And then you need to also record your past successes, because I'll tell you how that helps. When you get into that imposter episode, you've got something on record. You know that, okay, these feelings are just coming to the surface, not because it's true that I do not deserve to be here, because you know what? On such and such a day, I achieved 1, 2, 3. You know, I was able to turn this department around and made them be able to achieve such and such a target. So when you've got it on record, it sort of reminds you, even when you get into a moment where you fail. And, you know, we also need to be able to separate an event from who you really are. So when that event comes, you've got it on record as a reminder to say, no, here's my reference point. I am good. I've done this before. And another thing that you need to do is, you also have to also note down the feedback that you get from others, because that fuels you when you've got that when you come into that episode now, when you feel like, oh no, you know what, I was right, I do not deserve this position. You now remember that boss, you know, that gave you such a positive feedback, and then that sort of helps you get over those feelings. Next slide. So again is talk about it. The reason why people suffer in silence is because, like I said, they don't know that they're not the only ones going through that. So break the secret, talk about it. If you're a mentee, you've got a mentor, tell your mentor about it. You know, I've been having this self-doubt thoughts, feeling inadequate, feeling like I don't really deserve to be here. And you might just find that they have had to conquer those thoughts and beliefs over time, and they might just give you tools on how to come out of those feelings. And another one, this is an important one, you need to also reveal the secret that makes you feel like an imposter. And just on that one, I was watching a TEDx talk of a guy who was a trailblazer in technology. And he said, you know, he was heading this technology department. He's an American. And he said that, but he had this secret that, you know what, I've you know, climbed the ladder without having a college degree. And it is one thing that he kept secret. And but because of his talents, he just kept going up the ranks. So one weekend he's sitting, and then he picks up a newspaper, and someone has dug up his history, and it was revealed that he does not have a college degree. And he said the whole weekend, he spent the weekend stressing and, and not looking forward to going back to work on Monday because he just thought, you know what, I'm going to be a laughing stock. But in fact, instead, when he went back to work on Monday, people had more respect for him because they said, boy, if you could achieve what you've achieved without a college degree, then it means you're good, that it means you really deserve to be here. So that thing that you are hiding that makes you feel like, oh no, maybe it's just because of talent that you've been promoted. Talk about it. Tell people, I don't have a degree. So what? But you know what? You might find that it's not such a big issue to other people because what matters at the end of the day is whether you're producing results or not. Next slide. And please say yes to new opportunities because how else do you know if you're fit for the position if you don't try? And you need to also make a difference between not taking up a role because you've got work already, too much work in your hands. That's understandable. That's having a lot on your plate. But you need to be able to differentiate between that and not taking up a new role because you've got self-doubt. That is imposter syndrome speaking and discouraging you and wanting to take your shine. So you need to be able to distinguish between the two. And please say yes to those opportunities. Sometimes I'm called to come and speak on a subject that I hardly know. So what I do is I have to research on it. I have to make sure that I go and read articles on it. And if there are experts, I talk to them. And that's the only way that when I go, I'll feel confident when I speak about it. So please say yes to opportunities because the moment they recommend you for something, it's because they've seen something in you that they believe that you could contribute in that role. So let's not say no to those new opportunities. Next slide. And finally, embrace the feeling and use it. Like I've said, there's a lot of imposter syndrome sufferers out there that are impacting lives, that are movers and shakers. And they are just not letting it stop them. And it's not going to get out. I will emphasize that again. It's not going to go away overnight. Take baby steps, be patient with yourself, and be kind on yourself. But whatever you do, sometimes I talk and I've got knots in my stomach and I'm sweating, but I don't let it stop me. I will push because I know that voice that is telling me that you're not supposed to be here just wants to come and steal my shine. You can do it, girl. You can do it. You are there because you deserve to be there. Go out there and make a difference. Thank you so much for having me. That's the next slide. That's the last slide, I think. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Epiroc. Thank you, Blackback Productions, and thank you, Rising Star Forum.
Sorry, I was just struggling to get back in. I had to refresh the page, but I'm back in now. Apologies, Mujachi. Thank you very much for that. I've been monitoring the chat the whole way through, and there's so many people who just get it. Just relate to it. And also have taken notes from what you're saying and is going to implement that in their own lives. So you've given them some inspiration today. There is just a couple of questions. Wesley's asked a question and it aligns with something Azra asked earlier in the conversation. They're both looking at the culture of the workplace. And when a workplace standard is so high, I mean, with unemployment being so high, the expectations on new intake is perfectionist. I mean, you have to, as a grad, you have to have outstanding grades, extramurals, community activity, you have to be society membership, and all of these things. So when, and just sticking to Azra's comments, when the culture of comparison is so high, how do we overcome both the culture of comparison and, for Wesley, your own inner perfectionist when perfection is demanded?
Um, you, I think what I find that's very common with perfectionists most of the time is that then they become so hard on themselves when they have not delivered 100% of the time. In reality, Laura, we must know there's no way that you can deliver 100% of the time. So, in a way, letting go of that inner perfectionist is forgiving yourself when you actually not, you don't, give that A plus performance. Being able to be kind on yourself to say, you know what, it's okay. I can do better next time. Because if you're gonna be driven by always achieving 100% results, what happens when you don't? The only problem is when you become too hard on yourself, that it even robs you of your own peace.
Absolutely.
And also your family life. Yes, the workplace expects us to perform to a certain extent, but there's got to be a balance. At the end of the day, you must also take care of yourself. So overcoming, and it's not going to go away overnight, like I say, if you grew up with this thing. And perfectionism as well, also you need to find out where does that stem from. Go a little bit back in your background. How did I get to be where I am? Why am I always constantly pushing myself to achieving certain high standards? And you may find that you can be able to overcome that. I'm not sure if I'm answering that.
I think very much so. Wesley certainly commented that his take homes are believing in yourself and having the courage to move despite having imposter syndrome. I think to add to what you were saying, I mean, it's the notes I made, you covered them all, but for me, it's all a balance. And if you put
Yes,
too much pressure on yourself, and if you're striving for this unobtainable goal, then you lose your own authenticity. And as
that's true.
much as employers demand a lot on your CV or demand a lot in the workplace, the words authenticity and truth are coming through more and more and more in all of the employers I speak to. And if you lose yourself within the process of trying to
It's not
achieve,
worth it. Yeah, it's not
exactly,
worth it.
then you
Yeah.
don't get it anyway.
Yes. Yes.
So it's like striking a balance.
Yes. Yes.
and
About a balance.
and you mentioned it, taking the pressure off yourself is
Yes.
absolutely for me. One more question from Ayanda. You went through all the types of imposter syndrome and the different ways it can display. Um, and Ayanda's just wants to know if it's likely possible that you move between different types of imposter syndrome at some point in your life.
Yes. It is likely, but you will find that one displays more of maybe for instance, I'm more of a soloist than an expert, whereas one will be more of a perfectionist than a great mind. But I don't believe that you can be all five. Then you're not normal. But yes, you'll find that you've got more traits of one than the other, and you can move between one or the other. Yes.
Amazing. I think they're the key questions. Just a few comments. Azra again says, I think the fear of failure attributes a lot to this too. Especially as women, there's a whole inequality battle that we're fighting that we have to overcome as well. Shinofetso, and I recognize as one of my grad stars there, it says that keeping a journal is an amazing way to encapsulate all of your successes, as you mentioned, all of the things you've overcome and everything you've gone through, and then you can flick back. Authenticity. That was brilliant, excellent talk. Thank you for inspiring. So I think today you've really made a difference to the young people in our audience, Machachi. So I would like
Oh,
to possibly close off. I mean, I've got a really warm feeling, and I think that's what we're supposed to have, right?
I'm glad. I'm glad. Then my goal has been met, Laura. My goal has been met. That's
I
what
see
I'm
these people
about.
still typing, but a lot of them are just saying thank you so much for giving them the opportunity to embrace this subject and to talk about this subject and just to own it and know that they're not alone. And I think it's also knowing that you're not alone and that you can
Yes,
speak up can make
yes,
the whole difference. So
yes.
Machachi, I really appreciate your time. Epiroc, I mean, guys, Epiroc's the best employer ever. But Epiroc, thank you actually for giving us this space and for providing this space where we can share our knowledge and insights with the young people that follow. So thank you,
My
everybody, for
pleasure. My
today.
pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Machachi, and a
Okay.
wonderful, wonderful
Bye.
session. Thank you, everybody.
Same to you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.